Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here again with my co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hi, Alison. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's lovely to have you once more. Now, in this episode, we're going to be talking about solar returns.
Yes.
So solar returns is a forecasting method. It's a direct forecasting method. And what you do is you calculate a particular chart. We're going to talk about this, and everyone can follow along and do some forecasting for themselves.
Yeah, this is a really simple one you can do yourselves. You can do it every year.
Yes. So I think the thing is with solar returns that you do them once a year.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, on your birthday, I would think.
Yes.
Or whenever, but it's from birthday to birthday.
From birthday to birthday. So, so technically the sun has to be at the exact position it was on the day you were born.
Yeah.
So many software programs will calculate it for you.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of recommendations on softwares, which we must talk about again further one day.
Yeah.
So, Arwynne, just in general then, which websites are you using to calculate your solar returns that our listeners could go to?
Sure. I mean, usually I use astro.com for, most of my astrological chart interpretations, and that's where I have you get 100 free with just.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So
okay.
You can store like all your friends and family pretty much. But for the solar return chart, I actually used something called zodiacal.com, and that is zodiacal.com. And they have a free calculator for solar returns. And they give you a really nice little selection of, you can get the whole visual wheel, and then it also gives you a couple of paragraphs of free interpretation, which is nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Super interesting. Yes. So generally I would use, for client work, I'll use SolarFire for the professional work. But I use AstroGold app. It works on iPhone and iPad, and that's what I use for my calculations. Yeah. And that is the calculated chart that we'll maybe be showing on this, on the blog post to go with this episode.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But either way, the point being that solar return charts happen every year when the sun gets back to its position it had when you were born.
Yeah. AKA your birthday.
Well, not always, but yes.
But around about.
Yeah, nearby. Yeah, so because I was born in England and now live in Vancouver, it's always the day before now.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Yeah. So the point is you don't put the date in, the computer will calculate it for you.
Yeah.
So the idea is that this is a chart that you can use, that it's valuable for 12 months for each year.
Yeah.
As a forecast tool it's your solar return chart.
Yeah, and you would also put in if you've moved to a different place than where you were born, you would put in your current location. For me, it's the same, strangely enough.
Oh, is it?
I've moved around a lot in my life, but I moved back to Vancouver, and now it's literally like 5 blocks from where I was born. So
that is so interesting. I mean, we can see the hospital you were born in from the window,
literally,
right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Old hospital. Yeah.
So, anyway, a lot of people do move. And why not? Yeah. And so the point being that when you're going to calculate your solar return chart, if you're not at home on your birthday, you need to calculate the chart for the place where you are.
Yes.
Now, this previous birthday I had this year in August, I wasn't at home. I was actually at Half Moon Bay. Oh. So I had to calculate my solar return chart for that position.
Interesting.
Yes, I know. And that's how, when I got that, I thought, I'd better calculate this chart. Although it is far away from Vancouver, probably 300 kilometers. It didn't make much difference, but it made enough to pay attention to. So anyway.
Yeah, totally.
And one year, many years ago, we were actually in Mexico when it was my birthday. So I calculated my solar return chart for that position.
Yeah.
And interestingly, you also get solar return travelers who will actually go to a particular place to get a better solar return chart.
Now that is super interesting.
Yes.
One day we will have to do a whole episode on astrocartography, because this is something I find utterly fascinating.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, this is something where it comes right down to earth, no pun intended, and maybe a little pun intended.
There's always a pun intended.
Right. But yeah, it's one of those things that's very tangible, very, you can actually really see the difference it makes, because normally you're just going to stuck with the chart you have. But yeah, every solar return, you have the chance to sort of go, start this year a different way.
Oh, freshly again.
Yeah. It's kind of like choosing on New Year's Eve where you're going to be on
for New Year's Eve,
the moment that it changes,
yes,
and who you're with, and all those things, and how we feel like that kind of makes a difference and sets a tone for a year.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the same for astrology.
This is the thing. So if your birthday is coming up in the next month or two, you want to be looking into casting your solar return chart, having a look at it, because it will show the unfoldingness and potentials you have for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
It's part of forecasting, and it overlays really on transits and all the other forecasting tools, but it's a great one to use.
Yeah.
particularly near your birthday. And this is why many astrologers will actually offer you a discount if you go to them in their birthday month, because they can use the solar return solidly for that forecast for you.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons they offer that discount at that time.
Yeah. So as a consulting astrologer, when someone comes to you looking for a solar return chart, what do you look for? What are the first things that you talk to them about?
So the first thing I always check is that the sun has been calculated correctly and is exactly at the same degree and minute of the actual natal chart.
Yes.
That's just a technicality. You've got to get that
Right.
No matter where they are in the world, that has to be correct. And then the first thing you want to consider is actually the solar return sun's house position, because it will highlight a different house each year. It will not be in the same house than the year after next.
Interesting.
So the house that it happens to be in for this year will be different to, and then only in 12 years' time will you get that same house back.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is a pattern to that. We can talk about that in a little moment. So first of all, you want to know, well, which house, because it's like the sun is like a light beam illuminating this house, this area of life for you where you can expend your energies and your focus and and be yourself there.
Yeah.
The second thing I'm looking for is the solar return ascendant, and where does that fall in your natal chart?
Right.
So say you've got a solar return ascendant, as I have of Cancer this particular year, I would then say, well, which house is that falling in my natal chart? Because that's where this solar return chart for this year is twanging my natal chart.
Yeah, totally.
So it becomes a sensitive point just for the period.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's the second thing we're going to be looking for. And then the third thing that I look for is the aspects that the solar return sun receives in the solar return chart. Because as the sun comes around and mates its same at this solar return, it remakes all the natal aspects that you have to your sun anyway.
Right.
And then additionally, your solar return aspects come into that sun and stimulate that sun position as well.
Yeah. So it's almost like a progressed chart.
Yeah.
Laid on top of your natal chart. So there's like a synastry thing happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Themes
with
come
your
through.
Current year chart.
Yeah. So any aspects that you have natally to your sun will be recalibrated as the sun comes around. Much like in a Saturn return, they retwang those aspects, whatever aspects you have natally, but you then get the opportunity of perhaps you've got a fabulous trine from Jupiter to your sun. Well, then take it, and that will be in position for the year, and you can use that energy as well.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And so let's just talk about this movement position. So each year as the solar return sun is calculated, so the next year it will move 3 houses back, and it is slowly drifting backwards just on a quarter of the chart. So you will go through the angular houses, 10, 1, 4, and 7. Then it slowly shifts and it goes through the other houses and the other houses. So it takes 12 years for the solar return sun to return to its same house if you stay in the same location. And this is the pattern of the cycle.
Wow.
So the idea is that if you cast your solar return sun for, say, your next birthday coming up, and you see that it's, say, 5 degrees above the ascendant in the 12th house, but maybe, which is a very quiet year, but maybe you want to launch a business or something important and put yourself out there, this is where this solar return traveling comes in.
Because you want it in the first house.
Yes. So if you want to move that sun to the first house, you could jiggle the actual location and decide, I actually need to go to Calgary or down to Seattle, and it's just going to push it into the first house, and you overcome a 12th house year if that's not what you're looking for.
Fascinating.
And the same goes for a solar return sun that is projected to be in your 9th house, which is philosophies and travel and all the rest of it, knowledge gaining and so on. But you want to, again, launch your business or go public with something or other. You would then want to shift that solar return sun into the dynamic 10th house. So you have the spotlight on what you're doing in the public domain, how your career's going, and where you are in the hierarchy, and you want to, I don't know, marry a doctor and become important or something like that. Yeah.
So the first thing you'd look for is what house the sun is actually in.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just talk about what it means for each each position.
Each house for the, okay.
Yeah,
So let's do, so I've got a couple of quick notes here I can just go through so everyone can have something to chew on about their solar return.
So first house.
Yeah. So when your solar return sun is in the first house, it is a year to focus on self-improvement, expect physical changes, and let people get to know you.
Interesting. So I would think also that we would look at what aspects the sun is making, especially if there was something fortuitous, like if it was aspecting, Jupiter positively or
of course, yes, yes, absolutely,
like that.
Yeah, but in general, the first thing you're going to look at is the house because that's what's been illuminated by the sun.
Yeah. So second house.
So when the solar return sun is in the second house, it's a year to improve your self-esteem, improve your personal and core values, and earn a good income.
Nice.
That's a great position. Absolutely.
Third house.
Now, when the solar return sun is in the third house, it is a year to focus on short courses and learning skills, participate more in your neighborhood, and allow self-expression to become important.
Interesting. Yeah, so communication, and it's also the house of siblings, so I would think maybe connecting with siblings would be good this year.
There you go. Yeah.
Cool.
Or even getting a new one, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Horrors.
All right.
Horrors. Yeah. All
right. Fourth house.
So when the solar return sun is in the fourth house, it's a year to spend time at home, stamp your personality on your home, and identify with your family.
Right.
So in a way, it's going to be, it's not necessarily redecorating the house, but it's putting your mark about the place.
Yeah.
When you have these types of solar returns.
Yeah. Okay, fifth house.
So when the solar return sun is in the fifth house, it is a year to fall pregnant, enjoy children and play, and give birth to your creative projects.
Yeah.
This is a main theme for the fifth house. Yeah.
Yeah, creative projects. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, sixth house.
And then when the solar return sun is in your sixth house, it is a year to begin your own business, go back to work, and attend to your heart health.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
It's also the house of small pets, so.
Yes. But yeah, the little things.
Get a puppy or a kitty. All right. Seventh house.
So when the solar return sun is in your seventh house, it is a year to consider marriage, feel an individual within a partnership, and experience legal matters. This can be a tricky one because the sun is not comfortable in the seventh house.
Right.
The sun is self and ego and individuality, whereas the seventh house is partnerships.
Right.
And this is where they feel an individual within. So things don't always go smoothly at this time.
Looking out for yourself when you are partnering.
Yes. Yeah. And
making sure that when you sign a contract, you are representing your own needs and not compromising too much.
What about me?
What have you done for me lately?
Yes, what have you done for me lately? There you go.
Right, eighth house.
So when the solar return sun is in your eighth house, it is a year to possibly inherit from your father. Now, clearly this won't happen every year. Acquire individual debt because you're taking it on yourself.
Yikes.
And spend time on personal inward looking. Digging deep internally. Yeah.
All right. Ninth house.
When the solar return sun is in the ninth house, this is a year to expect to travel, be attracted to and identify with foreign things, and begin a self-improvement course.
All right. Well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
10th house.
So when the solar return sun is in your 10th house, it is a year to finally get your career to take off, gain public accolades for any previous endeavors, and become known and have a reputation in the public domain.
Fame and fortune.
Fame and fortune coming through.
Yeah. 11th house.
When the solar return sun is in your 11th house, it is a year to identify with a cause close to your heart, become humanitarian and concerned about humanity, and begin a self-interest group.
Interesting.
So this is a time when, because the 11th house is about groups, but it's the sun again, it's not very comfortable there.
Right.
You want to boss up the group, and the way to do that is to create your own group and say, hey, it's the It's the Joe Bloggs' group for this, that, and the other, and get people to join. But you are spearheading it.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is the time to start that weekly
book club
or like a group of people going into pub trivia, whatever.
Yeah.
Something with friends and groups of people you have common
interests with. You're in control. Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good one.
And the 12th house.
And then when your solar return sun is in the 12th house, it is a year to retire and withdraw from life, reflect on your life path, and recharge and replenish your inner self. Mm-hmm. Now, this can be a year when you actually have to recover either from physical, I don't want to say trauma, things that's happened, mental things or emotional things, where you actually withdraw and say, I need to just retire from life for a bit and convalesce, almost like they do after you've had a baby. You've got to go into convalescence home to recover, to give your body a chance to come back, to give your mind a chance to come back so that you can get back in touch with your identity. So it's a very quiet year.
Yeah,
that's
what
the thing
they would call hashtag self-care these days.
Yes, exactly. Where you're saying, enough with the rat race, I'm going to be at home, or I'm going to have a quiet year, or whatever your thing is. And that tends to be what the 12th house is about.
Yeah. Preparing for that emergence of the first house year where you brand new you, new year, new you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas the 12th house is here where you're actually going to be recovering regardless. And of course, these house positions only come around every 12 years if you don't move. Yeah. So every 12 years you do get a chance to recover.
Yeah. But of course, if you don't want to, you can game the system and go to Calgary for the
Exactly. So Arwynne, I see you've got your solar return chart there for your most recent birthday. Mm-hmm. So this is the birthday that just went?
Yeah, August 2023.
Okay, so tell me, which house position is your sun in?
9th house.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't know ahead of time that I could just go to a different province or and have it be in the 10th house, like my actual birthday. But
so what was it we were saying about the 9th house? Just one moment.
Yeah, for studies, I would think
travel, which you have done.
Well, and also I do plan on doing some eclipse travel next April for that solar eclipse. Planning to go to the East Coast and, with any luck, have a nice clear day to see the total solar eclipse.
Excellent. This is it. And I know you've traveled recently across the border as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, yes.
You did that. But that still is international travel.
Yeah.
Identifying with foreign things. Yes.
Well.
And self-improvement courses. So
always all about self-improvement.
Right.
Yeah.
And whatever the focus is, I mean, we don't need to know, but whatever the focus is, it's about taking courses to get self-improvement, because the sun is about the self.
Yeah.
So it's pulling it all together, making sure you've got all the knowledge you need, and perhaps even the experience, and this you're going to gain through travel, and making some plans for are you talking about the eclipse for next year?
Yeah, April. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I definitely want to see one in my lifetime. A total eclipse.
Oh, yes. Do you know which city you're going to go to? Or?
Well, my dad just happens to live like right in the eclipse path, so fingers crossed. I'm hoping we can stay nearby and combine it with a nice family visit.
Oh, fantastic! And if you get there, we'll get you to do a recording about the experience of it for us. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So, but apart from that, this 12-month period from your recent birthday, the focus will be on your self-focus. Will be on these things of. Yeah. And although we say foreign travel, it can also be anything cosmopolitan, or reading travel books if you're an armchair traveler, or exploring philosophies, Eastern philosophies, looking into religions. Yeah. I don't know if that's your thing, but it's that type of, it's education, self.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always
reading.
I mean, and I listen to audiobooks constantly.
Really?
Like even when I'm working out, when I'm going to bed at night, like I'm literally always listening to audiobooks if I'm not doing something else.
I see. And that's any particular genre you're going for?
Nonfiction.
Oh, no, yeah.
I listen to history of science, history.
I too
of
never go to fiction. Never.
Yeah, very rarely. I've read a couple, and if I do, it's science fiction. So But yeah, one of the most recent books that I read was about the history of forest fires, and it was about the awful fires that happened a few years ago in Fort McMurray, where the entire city was basically just flattened by this incredible fire.
Wow!
So just really fascinating, interesting books that combine science and human tragedy.
Yes.
Experience is a good way to put it. Yes, I'm not like just an ambulance chaser.
No, of course not.
No, but yeah, I mean, tragedy is something that makes the human experience emotionally impactful, and it makes us want to learn more about it. So.
Yeah. So it would be interesting to, if we want to consider it this way, to think, so from your recent birthday to your next birthday, and consider, well, how many books did you read this year, and how much travel did you actually achieve already? Because it's built in, it's hard baked into your solar return chart.
I mean, travel was one of my post-COVID goals, just realizing, like, with the lockdowns and the borders being closed, just realizing, like, we have the ability to travel so much more than we actually do.
Yes.
And what a waste it is to not actually travel when we can, you know?
Oh, that's so interesting.
And I know you've traveled so much of your life, which I sadly have
kicking
not.
and screaming.
It's ridiculous that I haven't. It's an oversight which will definitely be remedied in the coming years.
Well, this is it. So you're making these plans already to lean into that solar return sun, and why not? It's that position as well.
Totally.
Yeah. So then the second thing we said that we would consider would actually be the solar return ascendant in your natal chart. So the solar return ascendant is conveniently, what is that, 26 Scorpio?
Yeah.
And that arrives, what is that in your first or your 12th house then in your natal chart?
First house.
Oh, so it's first house too.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing. So it's bringing that focus in as well.
Yeah.
That's bringing a sensitive point into that first house for you, and that particular degree and minute as things cross over that this year will be a sensitized and triggered for you about self. Again, it's self and how you're going to express yourself differently as well.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. And then the third thing that I would always look for is the aspects that the solar return sun receives. And I see in your particular case, we've got a glorious opposition there to Saturn, which is...
Sounds glorious.
It's a glorious opposition to Saturn because the opposition is Saturn's aspect. And strangely enough, I actually have the exact same...
What?
Yes, the exact same aspect because Saturn moves so slowly, so it can linger.
Yeah.
And it won't just be opposition Saturn this year. It may be next year, and it may have been last year because Saturn moves so slowly. So whilst it's in 8 degrees either side for that 16-year period, Saturn is likely to be in 3 of your solar return charts. So we can assume that this is bringing mastery and discipline to Saturnian matters.
Yeah.
And well, it certainly has been for me. My career has taken a different turn.
Yeah.
I've reassessed well, I don't want to talk about me all the time, but I've reassessed what I want to do with my career. And I think perhaps from conversations with you in the past, you may have looking at this differently too.
We have both had career changes this year. That is safe to say.
Definitely getting rid of things that are not working and deciding exactly what we're looking for and trying to stay on track, which is a certain thing.
I've spent a lot of time on LinkedIn this year.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to stay on track with what's going forward. Yeah.
Totally.
And then I think there's 2 more little aspects there. You've got 2 quincunxes to the moon and Pluto. Now that would be an aspect because it's a minor aspect. I wouldn't necessarily consider it, although it is in your solar return, I wouldn't lean into that honestly at all. It's part, certainly the moon is passing and a quincunx from Pluto is what it is.
Yeah.
But the main actual aspect, the main message in this is the opposition to Saturn, that, you have to make sure you're on the right track. Because Saturn rules the lines and the track. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Are you on the right track? And if not, you, the sun, have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And
this explains why this year has felt like a Saturn return year for me.
Really?
Not like a crisis. Like I know we've talked about my my first Saturn return at length in the past. So it hasn't felt that awful, but mostly because I had a bit more of a what's the word? Like a
challenge.
Well, yeah, I mean, back then it was just a catastrophe, like unemployment, blah, 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 and I've had more of a cushion of, where life circumstances, my partner being able to
step in.
Step in. And so, full disclosure, being, between contracts, as we say, for like a few months.
Between engagements.
Yes, exactly. Looking at LinkedIn every morning and sending off resumes, blah, blah, blah.
Paying your dues. Yes.
Yeah, so that is definitely, it's hard work. It's harder than having a job. Looking for a job is
it's a job in itself.
I know. I've called it, I've compared it to speed dating, which has I've never actually done, but I've heard. Yes. And it's exhausting. Yes. So it is very Yeah, it's definitely been a year where the expectations of society versus what you bring to the table has been front and center in every day of my kind of waking life.
Well,
yeah,
goodness.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Well, as I say, it's the dominant aspect. It's really the only aspect I would consider. Now, the thing is, too, that when you look at a solar return chart, there are other things going on. You've got this and that and squares and T-squares and blah, 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 blah. But I never look at those because this is a solar return chart.
Interesting, yeah.
It's not a transit chart. You will have picked all the other stuff up in the transit.
Yeah.
But this aspect is going to be with you for 12 months. This is why if you happen to have a birthday when there's an eclipse, the eclipse is hard baked into your chart for 12 months. So all of these features that are in your solar return that relate to the sun are shown here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about you? How's your return chart?
So as I say, my solar return chart, I had to recalculate. It wasn't Vancouver. It was Half Moon Bay, just up the road.
Right.
Well, 300 kilometers away, but away enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
So what's happening is my solar return sun is appearing in my third house, which is not only, I won't say taking short courses, creating short courses, and it's the blogging. It really is the blogging.
The blogging, the podcasting.
The whole, exactly. The whole thing has unfolded.
Yeah.
I do also have that Saturn opposition for sure. That is to my sun. And I also have a square to, of all people, Uranus and Mars. So I always take Uranus as representing astrology. And the challenges are that this year I've had to pare down my offerings. I was offering this and that and this and that and a million things. And people were saying, I don't know what to pick. And I'm now whittling it down to, I offer consultations. Yeah. If you require a consultation, it can go anywhere you want, rather than saying there's 52 varieties here that you can choose from. And really people just want to have that 1 hour consultation. So I've pared down my offerings and taken away the confusion, I'm hoping, for it. And I've actively, that's the Mars square, the sun, had to go in, organize my calendar, sort things out. And it's actually still a work in progress where I'm still trying to streamline things out of my calendar that no one's ever wanted, but I always thought was a super interesting thing. No one wanted that particular thing. So I'm just tightening up what I'm offering. I'm making it simpler. And I'm coming to, I want to say what my heart interest is, which is hopefully inspiring people through their charts to live a better life. I don't need to be banging the drum for whatever it is astrologically. I've just brought the focus tighter. Yeah. And that's how I'm expressing it this year. I've got to tell you, though, it's not easy. Yeah. Because a lot of work and energy went into creating this stuff 5 or 7 years ago. Yeah. And now I'm thinking, and I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm getting rid of this. And I'm paring it down and tightening up to a core business model. So,
interesting. I feel you with the paring down and how difficult that can be. And not to belabor any metaphors here, but we have been cleaning out storage lockers recently, and it is similar in a way. It's just a mental storage locker in a way, because you feel like, oh my God, everything here has value. We spent money on all these things, and then you find yourself wanting to just get rid of them.
Just junk, isn't it?
Oh my God! Yes. And after here's an example of DVDs and CDs. Holy.
Chuck them out. You can't.
Tons. Yeah. What do you do? You can either donate them now, use them for an art project, literally paper a wall with them just as for fun.
Exactly.
Just in the last 5 to 10 years, these things have gone from $20 and up per thing to $0 in value.
Yeah. How do you even play them? I don't even have a player for that anymore.
I mean, we do, but we don't.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? We don't. No.
Technology's moved on and you've got to move with it.
Yeah, it's moved on very quickly. And it's just one of those things. Yeah. And you just have to mentally go, that had value. And now other things have value, you know?
I've got to tell you, I've recently addressed my Tupperware cupboard. I don't know if you even know what Tupperware is, but
I'm all about that. Yeah.
When I was a kid, my aunt was a Tupperware salesperson, so we were brought up with Tupperware. It was everywhere, and it's been a natural progression for me to have this stuff.
Yeah.
And now I am getting rid of the plastic, and I don't allow plastic into my house.
Oh, wow!
Unless it's really important. But I'm not buying plastic anything. I'm going with paper and natural decomposable paper bags and whatnot.
Interesting.
But I know. So I'm getting away from, because I do crochet too, I'm getting away from acrylic yarn. I'm not buying acrylic anymore.
Yeah.
Now I'm buying bamboo and cotton and wool.
Yeah.
And it's 3 times the price. But even I know it's going to, it's the best decision.
I mean, it's basically the same that we've done with food, because we are carnivores. My partner and I are carnivores. We're not keto, but we're keto adjacent.
Yes.
So we're definitely like carnivore diet.
I can lean into carnivore, yes.
Yeah, as few carbs as possible. Just, pretty much like just meat and fruit.
Yes.
And alcohol, whatever. I don't know what you call that as a diet, but
yeah.
But yeah, and we probably spend, obviously post-pandemic prices being what they are, but we probably spend more on meat than like on,
I agree,
like all of the groceries combined 10 years ago.
Amazing. It's amazing, the shift.
Yeah.
Okay, Arwynne, so this has been great. We've been talking about solar return charts, which are charts that you calculate a new one each year. You get a new opportunity of leaning into different types of things that come through. So it's adjacent or additional to your natal chart. And it's a great thing. I use it all the time. But client work, and certainly when my solar return comes around, we do calculate these things, don't we?
Yeah, new year, new you.
New year, new you. Okay.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, if you feel that you've found value in this podcast, please do consider sharing it with anybody else. And also, if you have any questions, you can email us at starzology@gmail.com, and we will be answering your questions in an upcoming episode.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Arwynne, for being here, and thanks to our listeners.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the 2 main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer, or someone who's learning astrology, or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.